Hello class. What you're looking at is a small footprint of man's giant leap. Man dreamed of reaching for the moon since the dawn of our existence, but the closest we ever got to was a reflection on water. That is, until July 20th, 1969. Man's long-held ambition of reaching for the moon became reality. In the next few minutes, I'll give this class an overview of the Apollo 11 mission. And the reason I choose this topic is because according to NASA, they're currently on the next moon project, with the goal of landing astronauts back on the moon by 2024. Now I figured this is a good time that I refresh everyone's memory of our last expedition of the moon. So that way we can have a better idea of how far we have gotten. Now first, let me lay out the objectives for the Apollo 11 mission. Then we will look at some of the challenges the crew faced. And finally, I will talk about some of its lasting impacts. There were three main objectives to the Apollo 11 mission. The US needed to establish supremacy against the Soviet Union. Now, according to History.com editors, on October 4th, 1957, a Soviet R-7 intercontinental ballistic missile launched Sputnik, the first ever man-made object to orbit Earth. The US was officially trailing behind in the space race, and the government needed something to put the US back on top. And by landing men on the moon to display rocket ballistic missile supremacy, the US hoped to deter its Cold War rival from doing something that can't be undone. Now, the second objective of the mission was to conduct scientific explorations and research. According to a Space.com article by Margaret Linton, Joshua Davids, in 1969, NASA's Apollo mission installed reflective panels on the moon. These have shown that the moon is currently moving away from us at a rate of 3.8 centimeters per year. Passive seismic explorations carried out by the Apollo 11 tells us there are moonquakes on the moon, just like we have earthquakes on Earth. Apollo 11 also brought back the first geologic samples of the moon, and by studying of the samples, we are now getting a better understanding of the moon's formation. And the final objective of the mission was to fulfill a dream as always humanity. Now, the moon plays a significant role in cultures around the world. We have countless stories about this constant yet far away object in the night sky, and by Apollo landing on the moon, they fulfilled this age-old dream for all of us. And now that we're familiar with the background and purpose of the mission, let's look at some of its challenges. This is our Apollo crew. We have Neil Armstrong on the left, Michael Collins in the middle, and Edwin Buzz Aldrin on the right. Here are some of the challenges the crew faced. While descending onto the moon, the lunar module's landing computer experienced a malfunction. It was an information overload, and the crew was forced to switch to manual mode, and they landed the craft within seconds of running out of fuel and 4 miles away from the original land site. Another problem the crew had to deal with was moon dust, shown in this picture. According to an article from Science by Moon Dust in Your Eyes, astronomers have discovered that moon dust is a very sticky problem as it adheres to virtually everything, often impairing the efficiency of equipment. There's really no solution to this problem. As you can see, it just adheres to everything. The astronauts, they just have to deal with it the best they could. And when it was time to return to Earth, they experienced another problem that nearly stranded them on the moon. The switch to ignite the ascent engine broke off, as shown in this picture. This is the actual switch. And they reported the problem back to Houston, but no solutions were reported back to them. And the Buzz has an idea of using a pen in his pocket to try to complete the circuit. And that's what he did. And luckily, it all played out. 3 days later, they were back on Earth. They landed on the ocean and was greeted by then President Nixon while they were in quarantine. And with the success of the moon mission and our astronauts safely home, what were the lasting impacts of the Apollo 11 mission? Now, right after the success of the Apollo 11 mission, NASA landed men on the moon 5 more times, and all that within 3 years. And soon after that, they sent out 2 space probes to Mars and was landed successfully. This is an actual photo taken on Mars by Viking 1. And the moon landing may seem worlds away for the average person, but what it did was it kick-started the digital revolution. And some call it the third industrial revolution, which gave rise to our modern world. Some of our day-to-day tasks we use have direct lineage from the Apollo's mission, and here are some. This is the personal or portable computer. And according to an article by Emily Pigeon, the first portable computer was a product of space exploration. The hardware was later modified, new software was developed, and it was propelled by the commercial market, which gave rise to our modern day computer. Another one is the digital camera, or the cameras on your phone. All of them use something called a CMOS sensor, which was developed during the Apollo's moon mission, because they needed something small and portable to take on the moon to take pictures, and a conventional camera wasn't going to do it. So that gave rise to the camera we have today, digital cameras. The internet is a major part of our life today, but that wasn't the case back then. In 1969, the Apollo 11 mission required a global network of ground stations called the Deep Space Network, which later became the World Wide Web, and we call it the internet. Today, we have learned about the Apollo 11 mission, some of its challenges the crew faced, and its impact on our world today. I want to end this speech with this picture. It's a picture of Earth taking on the moon. Now, most of us wasn't around when we first landed on the moon, but in 2024, we will have the opportunity to witness the moon landing of our time, and that's something we can look forward to. Thank you all for your time, and I will see you again soon. Take care.